Hello everybody. Today we are going to work through a call as if we are a service tech out in the field, and we're going to use the mobile phone software. So this is the software that would work on the iPhone or some of the Android phones. So upon logging in, your technicians will now be presented with the first call they're assigned. And with that, they'll see some information about the first call. They'll see the customer's information, including the name and address. They'll see the time the call is scheduled. They'll see whether or not this call is confirmed back inside SWRemote. They will see the job number, and they'll also see the priority of the call as set by SWRemote. Once they're ready to begin the call, the technician can click on the call and load up the call's information right here in the device. This will now load them into the Step 1 dispatch screen. In this screen, the technician now has the ability to put in their expected duration for their drive time to identify approximately how long it's going to take for them to get there. They can view the job instructions by hitting the Job Instructions button up here in the top center. This will load up the job instructions on file for the call. They can click the Job Instructions button again and it will make that go away. We can also hit the customer silhouette in the top left, and this will load up the customer information on file for the job. The first screen that will load will be the customer's service location information. With that, the technician will see the customer's address. We'll see some contact information. We'll see some directions on file for the customer. And below that, they will also see some summary information, including the agreement summary as well as warranty summary on file for the customer. They will also see additional job information and notes on file for the customer. If you would like, your technicians can edit this information by hitting the Edit button. This will load up a screen where the technician can go through and edit location information. Included information would be the customer's name, address, phone numbers, as well as things such as email address and other location information. This is where the technician can enter an email address, the same email address that you would ultimately email an invoice off to when you complete the call. Once you're done editing this information, click Save, and that will save the customer information. The next tab the technician can take a look at is the Billing Account tab, which is the second tab over. This will load up the billing account information on file for the customer. This will be the customer's billing account address, phone number, as well as additional payment information. In the payment information screen, if there's a balance or a deposit on the account, that will be shown right here. Please note that this is the billing account on file for the customer. Technicians do not have the ability to edit billing account information out in the job. Also, this is very useful when there's a landlord-tenant situation where you need to bill the landlord. The next tab over that looks like a shield, well, this will load up the customer's service agreement information. Any service agreement information inside SWRemote will show up right here. So you can see if the customer has an active service agreement, what is covered by the agreement, the dates the agreement is covered, and if there's any upcoming visits. You will also see if a renewal is created as well. The next tab over is the Equipment Information tab. This will load up the different types of equipment on file for the customer. With that, they'll see the type of equipment, they'll see the model, the serial number, the age of the unit, the location of the unit, the year it was installed, as well as any applicable filter information. And then we'll see that for all the different types of equipment on file for the customer. In addition to just viewing equipment, you could click on a piece of equipment to bring up on a screen where you can then go through and edit. And you can edit things such as the location, serial, model number, and install year. With things such as serial and model number, they can be entered in 3 different ways. You can type in the serial or model number. You can also use the speak to type functionality if your device has it and speak in the serial and model number. Or lastly, down at the bottom here, there's a scan button. If you were to press that button, it will load the camera up as a barcode scanner and give you the ability to scan a barcoded model or serial number. Once you're done editing equipment, you can click Save, and that will save the equipment information on file. And that is how you edit equipment. In addition to editing existing equipment, if you're out at a customer's location and you need to add a new piece of equipment, you can click the Add Equipment button here and load up a screen where you can enter in new equipment information. This will load up a blank equipment template and allow you to go through and enter in all the new information on file for that piece of equipment. Once you're complete, you can click Save, and that will save that equipment on file. Or to exit the screen, you can hit Cancel. In addition to equipment, you also have the ability to load up service history on the device, and you do that by hitting the History tab. This will load up the service history on file for the customer for the last 10 calls that are inside your SWRemote. And with that, you'll see the type of call, you'll see the tech that did the work, you'll see the date the work was performed, you'll see the invoice number, the invoice date, the total amount, as well as the work done and work suggested notes and the job instructions for all of those previous calls. This will give you the value information you need in order to work on the customer's location effectively. Once you're ready to head back to the call progress, you hit the Progress button in the top left. And this will bring us back so we can begin to step through our call. At this point, you can begin to dispatch to the call by hitting the blue Dispatch button. At this point, you have dispatched to the call, and the office will now see that you have dispatched to the call and you are en route to the customer's location. You will also have a map here in front of you showing where the customer's location is. In addition to that, you'll have directions, the same directions that would be entered in by the dispatch staff. Also, down at the bottom, you will see in the center of the screen there's a navigation button. By selecting that button, it will load up the mapping program on your device and give you the ability to map yourself to the job location. Once you hit Start, it'll actually start the turn-by-turn directions. And once you arrive at the customer's location, you can hit Clear. You can close the map app and reload the SWRemote app, and you'll be back where you were. After navigation, you can begin to step forward with the call, and you can hit Next and move from Step 2 to Step 3, which is now on-site at the customer's location. On-site will load up the expected duration on file for the call type. So if it's set to 1 hour based on the call type in SWRe, it'll come up 1 hour here on the device. You can set your expected duration if told to do so, then click On-site. This now will mark you on-site at the customer's location, and it'll close your drive time. The dispatchers now see that you're on-site and see that you expect to be there for 1 hour. Once on site, you can begin to build an invoice for the customer. If the office staff wants you to change invoice numbers, you can go up here and change the invoice number. Also, if they want you to select appropriate tax codes, you could select the tax code by hitting the drop down next to tax here and select the appropriate tax code on file for the customer. After you've changed the invoice number and selected the appropriate tax code, we can begin to add items onto the invoice. And items can be added in 3 different ways. First off, you can hit the Scan button in the top left if you have a printed out barcoded price book, and you can scan tasks that way. In addition, you can hit the plus item button here, which is the second button in that looks like a toolbox. And this is where you can go through and add items onto the invoice. And you can add items in 2 different ways inside this screen. First off, you can type in the item number or the description for the task or part that you're adding onto the invoice. You can type in a hot search and only put in a couple of items, or you can type in the full item number or description, and it'll help you find the item that way. For me, I did a partial of what the item's description is, and it loaded up with all of the items that match that. And I can go through and select one of those appropriate tasks. So I select my diagnostic task, and it brings me to an Edit Invoice Item screen, where I can go through and add an item. After we found the item, we can go through, we can change the description, the department, we can select appropriate price levels if told to do so. We can change the price if given permissions to. We can also go through and add in additional information about the item, whether it's an add-on, whether it's discountable or diagnostic. With discountable, you can uncheck discountable if this item does not have a discount applied to it. In addition, you can charge this item to an agreement or to a warranty by hitting the plus agreement or plus warranty button down here at the bottom. Once you're done with the item, you can hit done, and that will now add that item onto the invoice. At this point, you'll see that the item is on the invoice here, And with that, you'll see the item number, the description, the price, as well as the price level. You could swipe to the right to bring up a screen where you can delete it, or you can click on the item to bring up a screen to edit it. Let's go in and add additional items. We do that by hitting that plus item button that looks like a toolbox. From here, I want to show you the second way you can add an item. And you could do that by hitting the catalog. And this will load up your price book right here in front of you. Once you hit catalog, it allows you to select from the specific items that you want to add onto the invoice. If you're a flat rate or any kind of level pricing, it's typically going to be under task. If you're time and materials, it might be under labor or parts. For me, I'm doing flat rate, so I'm going to hit task, and it's going to load up all my task books that I have on file in SWRe. Once I select task, I go in and I select the appropriate price book. And inside there, it'll load up all the groups under that price book. For this job, I'm going to do a level 2 task. So I hit level 2, and it'll load up all the items inside of that group. I can now go down and select one of the specific tasks inside of level 2. It now brings up a screen where I can go through and edit the item. I can do the same thing by changing the price, the description, price levels, any of those items that I'm told to do so. And once I'm done, I hit done, and that will add that item onto the invoice. So now you will see on your invoice you have your diagnostic and now that other task that you've added. Outside of adding items to the invoice, we can also go through and add other types of things to the invoice as well. For example, the shield button in the center at the top here gives you the ability to go through now and sell or renew a service agreement to the customer. So if you click the shield, it loads up a screen where you can go in and add the agreement. First off, you would go down and select a type of agreement based off the agreement types that you have in SWRe. So you hit the drop down next to type, and then you select the appropriate type. And then hit done. And that should load up with the total years, the total amount, the start date, and the collected amount right there for you. As long as your agreement template is all set, you can simply just hit save, and that will show that you have now sold that service agreement to the customer. And you will now see that agreement line item right there on your invoice. Outside of selling a service agreement, we can go through and add a visit on file by hitting the calendar button up here at the top. This will give you the ability to add a visit off of a pre-existing agreement. So if you have visits listed for the customer, this is where you would go through and add the visit. So if you're out on the job doing a maintenance visit, you come inside here in the Add Visit button and you select that visit. And that will add a line item to your invoice representing that visit. In addition to that, we can also go through and discount the job. And we do that by hitting the discount button in the top right. This will load up a screen where we can go through and select discounts and apply it to any item that we have marked discountable when we added it on the invoice. So for this one, you can add a discount as a certain percentage by hitting the percent button. You can do it as a certain amount by hitting the amount button. Or lastly, you can hit the type button and select from pre-existing discount types that you guys have created back inside your SWRe. Then you click Save, and that'll apply that discount to any line item that you have marked discountable when adding it onto the invoice. You will see the discount being applied in the next screen when you actually create the invoice. Lastly, on the invoice, we can go down and hit the Notes button at the bottom and actually add in notes about what we did on the job. And we can add notes in 3 different ways on the job. First off, with work done notes, we can type them in. We can use the speak to talk functionality if our device has it. Or lastly, if our office has created boilerplate drop-down notes for work done and work suggested, we could select one of those pre-existing items and it'll automatically add that note onto the invoice. Same can be done with work suggested. We can type in the work suggested notes. We can use the speak to type functionality. Or lastly, if we have any drop-down lists that were created by the office, we can select those as well. When adding the boilerplate notes to the job, you can also go through and click on it to edit it as well. So if you needed to change some of the information on file with those notes, you could click inside there and type. And that is how you add notes when you hit exit to return back to the invoice screen.